Welcome everybody, Jason with TWL here, and as you can see, we are not in our normal location. We are sitting in the Pewabic Tile Museum headquarters, I guess I should say, with Annie Dennis, right?
Yep.
And what is your title, Annie?
I'm the Education Director and Archivist here at Pewabic.
Oh, that is fantastic. So why do they need an Education Director?
So we have a lot of multifaceted programs here, a lot of educational outreach in the community, as well as educational programs here at Pewabic. And so that's part of my responsibility here. And I also manage all of the historic documents in the archives.
That is fantastic. So tell me, Pewabic, how did they get their name? How did Pewabic come by Pewabic?
That's a great question. So Pewabic was actually named after a copper mine up in the Upper Peninsula. So our founder, Mary Chase Perry, later Mary Chase Perry Stratton, was born in Hancock, Michigan. And during her childhood, there would have been 4 copper mines operating in Hancock. So when she came to name her pottery later in life, she was kind of reminiscing on her childhood and always had fond memories walking by the Pewabic mine with her family as a child. And so it was really this early family connection that made Mary choose this name. But today we actually are able to access more information about that than Mary would have been able to.
Right.
And what we found is that the name Pewabic actually derives from Ojibwe terminology. More directly translated, Pewabic is piece of metal or iron.
That's interesting. Hence the Pewabic mines.
Exactly.
They would be mining for probably metals and iron.
Exactly. And so that's why the Pewabic name was used. It was used there long before the official mining company. And Mary wouldn't have had access to this information the way that we did. So again, it was just this early family connection for her. But a really interesting thing for us to learn with time about the Native American influence in that area.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The more I learn about Michigan, even though I've lived most of my life here, the Native American aspect of it is just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, apparently there's evidence that humans have mined copper in that area for over 7,000 years. So.
7,000 years. So I have friends who have, older homes that were from the 30s, 40s, I believe 30s or 40s. And their whole bathrooms are done with Pewabic tile. I mean, the walk-in showers, everything. When buildings, because I don't know if they are, once they move on to the next realm, their children were considering selling off the property to builders, which is devastating to me for many reasons. But is there a way to have, do you have some way of letting that people know that if you have historic tile, hey, bring it in, we'll take it from you. So at least some pieces of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the coolest parts of what I get to do here is actually get to help identify if people do have Pewabic tile in their home. So that is a service that we offer. If someone is curious, if they have tile in their home and they're curious about learning more, they can reach out to us and we can see if we have anything in our records for the home. So definitely reach out if you think that you have historic Pewabic tile in your home. We even have sources on our website to kind of help you learn more if you have Pewabic or another tile manufacturer that was really similar to us.
So they kept track of every piece they sold?
We a huge amount of the records they're handwritten and they're left here to us.
That's impressive in and of itself.
Yeah, we can sometimes help people identify what it is that's in their home.
Right.
And actually, one of the coolest days that I ever had here is I had someone reach out to me and ask if their entryway and fireplace was Pewabic, and they were new homeowners. They just purchased this home. So I looked into our records, and sure enough, I found it. But I also found that there was a sketch of a fountain that was placed in their sunroom. So when I responded back, I said, yeah, that your entryway and fireplace is Pewabic, but what about your indoor fountain? And it turned out that was still there in the home. It was preserved behind a wall in their sunroom. And so it was a really fun discovery that I kind of helped to be a part of. So
do you know, did they uncover it?
That was the plan. The last I talked to them, they were going to restore it. So, if you think that you have something, if you'd like to learn more, we'd love to kind of help you out. And even if you're just interested in seeing more of those examples, you can go on our website and see examples of some of those beautiful bathrooms that you had mentioned.
There is a virtual history of the museum?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to learn more about our history. So coming here to Pewabic is one great way. Visiting our museum is a great way of kind of learning the story of Pewabic. But for those that want to get a deeper dive, we also have a series of virtual history presentations available on our website where we go into really specific stories about Pewabic history, like our tiles found in churches and sacred spaces. I did one virtual presentation on Pewabic's relationship with the automotive industry. So for those that would like a more deep history-related dive onto Pewabic, definitely check out our website for those history presentations.
Also, a big part of our followers are California, Las Vegas, areas that they can't just come here and visit unless they're coming to Detroit. So they can go on the website and they can learn that information through the virtual talks as well, right?
Exactly.
So one of the unique parts of what I think is this is the oldest continuous potters. And that has not been bought out. That has not had anybody coming knocking on your door saying, "Hey, we want you." I think that in of itself talks huge about Pewabic and the quality of their stuff, the quality of their employees, as well as their product.
Yeah. I think it speaks about, I often get the question of why does Pewabic still exist? Why Pewabic of all of the different tile manufacturers and potteries? And I think there's a few different reasons for that. I think being situated in the city of Detroit helped to keep us alive. This is a creative city of makers and innovators and people that are really passionate about their city. And so because of that, we've always had an incredible network of people surrounding this place and supporting it. And so it's really the people of Pewabic that have allowed it to continue.
Exactly.
The staff that are here, incredible. Since the earliest days, people come here and spend their whole careers working here. And so it's a really incredible, environment to be a part of. I feel lucky to be here and really lucky to share it with you today.
That's awesome. Okay, let's go on that tour.
I would love to show you around.
This is an amazing place, Annie. It really is. I mean, we're in only one of the many rooms in here. And tell me about this. What do we have here?
Yeah, so this room focuses on the 120 years of handcrafted architectural tile production by Pewabic Pottery. And this is one of many displays in this room, but one of my personal favorites. This is a section of what was part of the Scott Fountain on Belle Isle. The tiles were actually removed to make the fountain more operable. And we actually thought these tiles were destroyed until they were donated back to us so they could be on display here and we can share it with everyone who visits.
I was going to ask that. If Now, do you put the word out for people when they need to remodel or redo something to hey, if you have Pewabic tile in there, to, bring it back to the museum?
Yeah, sometimes, and luckily, I mean, the major thing is after being here for 120 years, we're lucky that we've made a lot of friends. So a lot of these things kind of organically find their way back to us. That's what happened with this. And I think it's just a really great example, not only of the beautiful artistry of Pewabic tile, but also of how important our friendships within the community have been to us.
Exactly.
After all this time.
That's a great point because, we do a lot of different shows with different organizations that have a history, and a lot of their history isn't around anymore. For some reason, it's been destroyed or something. So I'm always happy to see when we have a piece of history brought back for other people to look at. So tell me about this thing over here. What is this here in the center? Because it is as beautiful as can be.
Yeah, so this is another one of the examples of the tile work on display here. All of the different sections in here represent different tile installations here in the city of Detroit. This is another really great one. This is examples of tiles that are located at the Detroit Public Library main branch.
Oh, nice.
They actually have this beautiful children's storybook fireplace. This is one example of the tiles that is located in that fireplace. This is the Hansel and Gretel tile.
And is that the actual?
Yep, this is the original mold, and this is a reproduction of the original tile.
Very nice.
And the fireplace is still in the library today.
And I love that. The detail is just crazy. It almost looks like something right out of the Hansel and Gretel coloring book.
Exactly. Yeah, it really is like a three-dimensional coloring book. So.
I love it. So we're in another room here in the Pewabic Museum on the other side of the building. And I'm here with Steve, and you guys all know him, and then, of course, Annie. And we are going to talk about the glaze, because the glaze is something that, the iridescent glaze is something that Pewabic is famous for. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are some of the examples, and I'm going to hand the microphone over to Steve, and then because of his knowledge with pottery in and of itself. So if you can tell us the history of how that started, then he will have some questions.
Yeah.
We'd spoken a little bit earlier regarding the iridescent glazes, And I was kind of under the impression that these were kind of almost industrial trade secrets that have been kept secret for generations. But in actuality, come to find out I'm completely wrong on that. And if you'd like to explain why.
I'd love to prove you wrong. Yeah, so yeah, I think the thing that's really important to note is that while Mary got credit, our founder, Mary Stratton, she received credit for inventing these iridescent glazes, but she was actually drawing inspiration from ancient Syrian lusterware. So she was introduced to this lusterware through one of her friends who challenged her to recreate the surface. It took her many years to do it, but she was able to develop 6 different iridescent glazes in her lifetime, gaining her and Pewabic national attention. So
incredible. I mean, but what's the difference in what she created and what is presented here and available today?
Yeah, so actually the iridescent pottery that are in front of us here actually were not made by the original staff. These are more recent iridescent tests. And none of these are the original glaze recipes that were developed by our founder. We believe that preserving tradition is very important when it makes sense. But what we found is that the majority of these original recipes contain materials that we now know are not safe for humans to work with, things like lead. She even used to get this metallic surface, she used to spray kerosene into the kiln at peak temperature. And she always said that it felt like she was painting with fire, and it's because she was.
Yeah.
So we still produce the iridescent glazes today, but we've reformulated our glazes to not include those dangerous materials. And we do still spray into the kiln at peak temperature, but we found a mixture of vegetable oil, dish soap, water, and a few other things. Makes a similar result. So we have examples of some of Mary's original iridescents, but I don't think there's any better example of why we've needed to change our glazes than these 2 orange pieces here in the display. These are our 2 uranium pieces, the uranium vase and our uranium pitcher, which means that they contain uranium, which means that they are mildly radioactive.
They'll show up on a Geiger counter, but they won't glow, you guys. So don't come in here with a black light expecting them to light up.
And you are safe standing here, but I would not drink coffee out of it.
But that's also kind of the same thing that Fiesta did.
Exactly.
The rare orange glaze that's so valuable now in pieces is probably from the same time period then?
Same exact time period. Okay. And this was, Pewabic is not the only pottery manufacturer that used these materials. It's very common. Oh, yeah. It's also common in glass and painting and things like that.
So I have a side question on that. I took some classes, some glazing classes, because I was I worked for Bed Bath & Beyond, and they sent me 2 different classes and stuff. Do they still vitrify the insides of these so that they can hold water? Meaning do they still use the same process where they use sand to glass coat it?
No, so we don't have to. We do vitrify our pieces in a different way. We can reach vitrification just through the firing and glazing process. Oh, cool. So that's another reason why we have a ceramic materials engineer on staff. Is not only do we want to make sure we're getting the beautiful colors that we like out of our glazes, but there's also functional concerns like making sure this is going to be watertight. Right. For tiles, making sure that they're non-slip for the floor. They're okay for freeze-thaw conditions. And so there's a lot more kind of like scientific thought that goes into this, and people realize a lot more mathematic thought than people realize.
I love that because we do have extreme weather conditions.
We do, and we have to think about those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we're producing
and slipping
tile.
And falling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do have another part of the museum that we're going to talk about, and that is the then and now, I think I'll call it.
You got it.
Why not, right? And I'm going to hand this over to Nikki, and Nikki's going to actually talk with Annie about the then and nows.
Okay, so first thing that caught my eye in this room was the kind of color wheel hexagon. And I know a lot of companies do that for like testing their colors, or it's kind of like do you guys compare the pieces that are coming out to make sure that's the standard color? But as an art student, to me it looks like a color wheel, and I studied color theory and stuff. So I'm always drawn to something with the whole color palette or like the rainbow. So tell us how we went from having that to now it's a decorative piece.
Yeah, good question. So this is something where we're frequently kind of inspired by the work made by the founding staff here. That not only comes to the glazes, but also the pottery and the tiles themselves. So all the things on display here are pieces made by the original staff that have been put back into production. And the best example, I think, is the glaze sample hexagon. So in the far back, that piece, the colorful piece, as you mentioned, it resembles a color wheel. Actually, what that was is a display piece that showed the range of different Pewabic glazes. so that it was almost like an early marketing piece or an advertising for Pewabic.
Okay, so it was a
sat-
public tool more than I was
Exactly.
thinking it was like a piece that was kept in like the firing area and it was used to like test your standard of colors, but it was more to show people
Exactly.
the
So
availability.
The most charming thing about this, a very Detroit element of this, is this would have sat on the counter of a store like Hudson's department store, kind of advertising the architectural tile made by Pewabic, the range of different glaze colors you could get in your architectural project, directing, and then there'd be some kind of signage directing people to come here to order their custom project. So we were lucky to be able to acquire one of those early hexagons, and we decided to bring that back into production, but in a smaller scale as a paperweight. So we kind of similarly kind of use that kind of color wheel, color scheme to do that. Another really great example, though, of how we're still inspired by what the founding staff did and finding ways to reuse that and honor them today.
Absolutely. And I see that being a perfect gift for so many different, like pottery lovers, art students. I mean, it's even got a little bit of a pride aspect. I think I saw that in some of the other things in the gift shop.
Exactly.
And then jewelry was
Yes.
a surprise to some of us. I know the guys knew, but I didn't know you guys did jewelry pieces. And
Well, and if
that's
we're
a
going to talk
beautiful-
jewelry, we have to talk about our little pin, because our bee pin is, I think, one of my favorite things we actually have in this museum. That is our Depression era bee pin. And so Pewabic usually made smaller jewelry items and things like that during times of economic hardship, because people weren't buying as many large pieces, as many large tiles. They were kind of scaling that down. So Mary first designed this bee during the Great Depression to be a gift item. And we still create that to this day. So here's a more recent bee pin, really
That's so
similar
sweet.
to what Mary created. So
How cute. So she was making keepsake items as opposed to maybe nobody could do a whole fireplace surround at that time, but still small gifts and tokens were being created.
exactly.
And then now we just did another episode on pottery. So we talked about I'm a Roseville collector. We talked about McCoy Van Briggle. This one, same era, I assume, has a little bit of like the Art Nouveau going into the arts and crafts period. So it's got kind of the natural lines, but that one is very reminiscent of Van Briggle. And you said that's an original piece that somebody remolded, and now you guys have a modern version of?
Yep, so yeah, that's our snowdrop vase. It was made during the very early arts and crafts movement, so good call on that. This was first created around 1903, 1904, the very first years of Pewabic pottery here. And back in the early 2000s, we actually repurchased that, re-sculpted it, and re-added it to our product line. So this is a more recent, a 2025 snowdrop in comparison. And so again, another example of how we're still kind of inspired by those original forms, and still use them to this day in certain ways. And the snowdrop, I think, is one of the more iconic Pewabic forms.
It's
that we made.
beautiful. And I like, it's very reminiscent, but it's not a direct copy, like color or finish wise. It definitely looks more modern, but not, modern art over the top. It still fits with probably people that like the historic vibe of Pewabic for their decor. It's got the nice muted color and
But yeah, I think that's why it's important that we always feel inspired by, and not that we want to continue creating the exact same things. And that's why if you do come here and kind of look at and compare and contrast these objects, they might be similar. The snowdrop is probably one of the closest, but as you can tell from the hexagon, a lot of the times they undergo some transformation as well. So we just see it as being an interpretation, not that we need to directly copy everything that
the history's the
Pewabic originally
inspiration,
did.
but then modern times and modern art, color.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
We are here in yet another room of the museum. So you see, this is rather large museum. For pottery, it's really cool. And we have stepped back in time in this room. So we're going to tell you how Pewabic started.
Yeah.
And who started it, and all the fun stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Pewabic was founded by Horace Calkins and Mary Chase Perry, later Mary Chase Perry Stratton, who's here in this photo. And this actually first started off as a kiln manufacturing company. So Mary was a china painter who was introduced to kilns that Horace was designing, first for the firing of porcelain teeth, as he was a dental supplier, eventually expanding to a line of kilns for the firing of pottery, of china pottery. And that is how he met Mary Stratton, his later business partner. And so their first area of business was selling these kilns and demonstrating china painting.
So they were just partners. They weren't like in a relationship or anything.
Just business partners.
Just business partners. Okay.
Yep.
Which is unusual for a lady at that time to be in charge of a huge,
Yeah.
Something to that effect. I think that's fantastic.
Mary was a force. She did
yes.
get married, but not until her 50s, and she married one of her best friends who actually designed and built this building, William
I love
Stratton.
that. I love that.
I think it's hard to fully tell this whole story of Pewabic without touching on what was happening here in Detroit at the time. See, Pewabic was founded officially in 1903, and that's the same year that Ford Motor Company was founded. So it kind of gives you an idea of what exactly was happening here in the city. And while I think a lot of people are really excited about the advancements in the Industrial Revolution, there's also a lot of people that felt concerned about what traditions were going to be lost.
Right.
A lot of artists that believed that handcrafted mattered, that human made mattered, and trying to really kind of hang on to like that traditional craftsmanship, the arts and crafts movement was created. And so Pewabic was actually started as part of that arts and crafts movement. So we've always had, since our earliest days, a strong focus on the handmade.
And I think that's a great idea because we've lost that today, I think, a little bit. So not necessarily here, but just in general.
Yeah, it's interesting
Yeah.
because, even though 120 years is a long time, I think our story and mission resonates just as much today in the digital age that it did during the Industrial
Oh,
Revolution.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, and she was the artist.
Yep.
She did the artist. So we're going to show you some of the pieces over here. Tell me about some of these pieces over here.
Yeah, so these are some of those China painted pieces I was talking about earlier. So these would have predated the founding of Pewabic Pottery. These would have been the very early years of their partnership, done around the late 1890s, early 1900s.
What's in the little tiny vials?
So those are actual China paints that are exactly what Mary would have been using. So
Really?
this process is a lot like watercolor. They were actually buying pre-made porcelain pottery blanks and building up washes of color similar to watercolor. But the difference is that you'd have to fire it in a kiln to fix that to the surface. So these little powders are the actual China paints, and they would mix them with an oil like wintergreen or lavender oil that would help move them around the surface, and again, firing it to fix it on the surface.
And this is an actual piece that Mary painted herself.
Yep. If we look really closely, you can find her signature in the
Yep,
bottom
you can.
right
MCP right
of
there.
every piece that she makes.
Yep.
All right, everybody, we are downstairs now in the main area of this beautiful gift shop where you can take home pieces of Pewabic. And after we talked about the large orange pieces upstairs, I mentioned how like that color is very popular again. It's very mod. And she said, funny thing is we wanted to recreate that. You said that orange was the one you guys
Uranium.
couldn't do with the uranium anymore, but you wanted to recreate it, and it looks like there was a perfect opportunity.
Yep. So this is our new persimmon glaze. This orangish color, it was inspired by that uranium piece that we have up in our museum. We've always loved that glaze and that surface, but obviously containing uranium, it's not a glaze where we could just pick that back up and remix it again. So, for years we've admired that original vase in our archives, but, didn't really ever take the opportunity to try to recreate it. But obviously you can see Pewabics use orange in more times than just now, and with the uranium vase, as our installation at Comerica Park, I think, is one of the best examples of
It's beautiful.
how we've used these kind of bright orange glazes. So yeah, this is one of the newest glazes that we've added called Persimmon. Also showing a few of the other beautiful glazes that we have here at Pewabic, as well as some of our licensed tiger tiles, Detroit map tiles. We have all kinds of fun stuff.
All the history and modern color schemes and everything all blends in. I mean, this whole display is really pretty. Not a lot of people think to use blue and orange, but obviously, yes, it screams tigers. And it's funny, we were talking earlier about how you can see Pewabic. And you always know when you're out with one of your friends that either is into art or architecture. I just went to a Tiger game with friends a few weeks ago, and sure enough, I was stopping everybody outside, grabbing them, saying, "You guys know all that tile is Pewabic, right?" And half of them are like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I will tell you later, trust me." But it's beautiful to see it on modern buildings. I mean, this couldn't be a prettier ball stadium when they redid it. Like, it's got just enough touches of history that it looks like it fits right in with all the other old Detroit buildings.
They did a good job decorating that. And I think that's one of the really cool things about what we do. We love that people go and get to see our tiles throughout the city. Like seeing Comerica Park here, in this area of Midtown, there's tile work covering over 100 years of production by Pewabic Pottery. So it's always fun going around the city and seeing where we adorn all of the different buildings, just our little tile jewels kind of scattered throughout.
Practically do a scavenger hunt and
Exactly.
pop around all the buildings and see where you can find them.
Yep, but we're proud to still be doing it. So Comerica Park is kind of one of our, on the newer installations that was put in 2000.
Nice.
We're down in the work part, the workroom, I would say, because we're standing here next to this huge kiln, right? This is a kiln.
Yes, it is.
So these items here what are these called? Do you have a name for
Yeah,
the
these are
stacking?
kiln shelves here.
It's kiln shelves.
Yep.
And so one of the questions I got to ask, because I know this is going to be, the top of this comes down. Am I correct?
Yes, you're right.
Okay. And these are going to be fired. So my question to you is, does it matter that they're stacking on top of each other?
That's
in
a
this
really,
firing?
really good question because depending on the firing, sometimes it really matters and sometimes it doesn't. So all of our pottery and tiles here are fired at least 2 times.
Oh, okay.
So the first time is called a bisque firing, and that's a lower temperature firing that kind of helps prepare the clay for getting its glaze application.
Right.
The second firing is a glaze firing. This is the first firing, and so there's no glaze here. These can be stacked and touching for this first bisque firing. Now, after this firing, those are going to be glazed,
Like those
which
that
we'll
one
see
over
in
there.
another kiln,
Okay.
and those cannot be touching or they'll fuse together.
So we're standing across from the original kiln that we just were standing at, and this is the second firing.
Yeah, so they're just finishing unloading this kiln, which had the second firing. These ones all had their glazes, which is how you can see that they're not stacked. They're kind of set right next to each other,
Right.
but that way the glazes don't fuse to one another.
They're beautiful.
they beautiful?
We are standing next to the kiln that they were fired in. So as you can see, these kilns are huge. You could actually walk into them.
Yeah.
Actually, earlier there was a guy in there unloading it.
Yeah, and that's really why we have them where this one rolls out, is so that the staff can approach us and load and unload from all sides.
Nice.
Versus our original kilns, they would have to crawl in and out. So these ones are much safer, much more ergonomic, and much more environmentally friendly, as the original kilns fired on motor oil, and these fire on natural gas.
On motor oil. Wow. Here we are in the clay making area of Pewabic Tile.
Yep.
So you're going to see some workers, artists, I should say.
Yep.
But right now, this big machine that's behind us that we see rolling up there, what is that?
Yeah, you're here at a good time because we're actually in the middle of making clay right now. So this is our clay making system that was installed into this building in 1912.
Wow.
And it's been in use by Pewabic Pottery ever since. So 113 years of continuous use here. And this machine makes all of the clay for our tile production here at Pewabic.
That's pretty astounding because from what I've read, that Pewabic is one of the top or one of the only longest lasting pottery companies in the country.
Yeah,
Is that
you're
correct?
Right. You got that, yep.
So, and it's not just Michigan you sell to. You sell all over the country, all over the world, right?
Yep.
So earlier you told, so they make a lot of stuff here. It's crazy. Earlier you told me that you take the what is it that drops down and goes into the ground?
Our clay. So to mix clay, we actually start off by mixing it into a liquid state. It's called slip. And we do that in a big back drum back there, the above ground tank. And so once we mix that into a nice consistent liquid clay, we actually pump that slip into a tank underground here. It's an agitator tank. And we do that to let it age for a short period of time, ultimately allowing the clay to be more flexible as an end result. Once it goes through that holding process, the final step is it's going to go through this up here. This is called a filter press.
Right.
And that helps to drive out all of the excess water from the liquid clay, turning it into a soft, pliable clay that's perfect for pressing into tile.
So that's pushing it together.
Exactly.
Because you can see the water coming out at the bottom of it. And I know that he got that earlier. But it's pretty impressive. I mean, and it's not a lot of space right here.
It's not,
to take up that. And this is where all the clay is made.
Yep, all the clay for our tile production. It is not the fastest way to make clay, but we do think it makes the best, most consistent clay body.
Well, you're pretty well known, so I think it's working.
It works for us.
So where does the clay come from? Is it here in Michigan?
It's a good question. So all of our clay materials are domestically sourced throughout the U.S., so not all specific to Michigan, but throughout the United States, although changing industry sometimes changes our material access. So that's always a conversation that we're continuing to have here, and because different industries impact our availability as well. Yeah, so this here is our glazing area.
Our glazing area.
In glaze, before I even start talking about how we apply it, I just want to mention what it is, because people often come here and think that it's paint, but it's actually a lot more like glass. There's glass former, there's heavy metals for color, and there's actually a lot of chemistry involved. So we actually have someone on staff that helps to kind of formulate all these glazes, and all of these are mixed in-house by the staff that work in this space. Yep.
That is awesome. Now, she's doing picture rock, and I know that we have, and we'll show the picture of the finished product. This is part of the postcard line.
Yep, this is part of our postcard series, the Pictured Rocks. We have many other Michigan landmarks as well as part of our postcard series. And Avery over here is applying the glaze. This is called hand painting. We apply glazes in a few different ways.
That's the signature on the back, right?
Yes.
That she just wrote on there.
Yes. So Avery, anytime you buy a piece, if it's hand painted, you actually get to see the signature of the artist who completed that work. So Avery is there adding her initials on the back.
It sits on the sponge.
Yeah.
That's cool. So this is actually your work, Avery, right? Yes, this is beautiful. And you can see the artistry in just her signature.
Exactly. And I think this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. Even though this looks really familiar, what Avery's doing, I think everyone's done a version of this. Everyone's picked up paint and painted their name, but this requires a huge amount of material knowledge to work with this. This is not like paint. There's a lot more to it. And we'll kind of see as we go through, there's a lot of also health considerations that we have to think about as we work with glaze as well.
So what are some of those?
Well, so because we know that these are heavy metals and glass formers, we have to use a lot of respiratory protection. So we're going to see a lot of ventilation as we go through the rest of this tour. Sometimes personal ventilation like respirators, other times air for airflow in the space.
So is all the product on here, like the cups and stuff, is that work that she did? Or is that...
So these are work so that this team will glaze.
Oh, that this team will glaze.
So we do have a vessel team that would have made those pieces. Our kiln team helps to fire the pieces. I think that's what's kind of neat about working here, especially back in fabrication, is they all play a different part in like true collective making. And that's how ceramics started.
I love that.
And that's not really how people traditionally work anymore. So it's kind of fun that we're hanging on to an element of tradition about collective group making together.
That is a great point. I worked as a floral designer for a while, and I would get the team to do it collectively, meaning some put in this, some put in that. And a lot of the true artists did not care for that a little bit because they wanted it start to finish. But the more they worked on it, the more they realized the benefits it has to the item and stuff. So there's that vase that we looked at that you talked with Nikki, the snowdrop, which I think is pretty cool. And so this is the before factor that we just looked at up in the museum.
Yep. So all the pieces here, including these snowdrops, this has been fired one time. So this has gone through that low temperature bisque firing. It's ready to get its glaze application. And so we can see Cassidy over here is prepping some glaze for doing some like dipping
with a drill.
Pouring.
I love it.
Yep. So we use all different tools around here. And so as I mentioned, we do hand painting. We also dip and pour our glazes, which is likely what Cassidy's getting ready for. And we're going to see Lexi spraying glaze at the end.
Oh, yeah. And I see her fitting herself with the breathing apparatus. This is Lexi, and she's doing the spray tanning. No, the spray on of the item. Look at that. That's artistry in itself.
Yeah, you have to, again, really understand the material that you're working with. And that's why we're lucky that so many of our staff have backgrounds in ceramics, have had a lot of experience. And what Lexi's doing right now is she's spinning these pieces and using the glaze to apply in a really consistent, even way. These are all getting a special third glaze right now. So if you could tell, those are already glazed.
Right.
They're getting, special second glaze, and they're getting ready to go into special third firing. So these are going to be iridescent pieces.
Oh, these are, okay, so iridescent pieces, get more than 2 firings.
Yep. So that's the only exception. Everything else is fired twice.
So is what she's spraying on, is that what will form the iridescence?
Yep, between the specially formulated glaze and then that special firing that we talked about.
That is fantastic.
Isn't it?
I love that.
Yep.
And this is one of the newest rooms here. When was this one made?
This is our newest expansion on the Pewabic building. This was added in 2018.
2018. So, and I do have to point out, this gentleman right here, I've seen him in 4 different places doing 4 different things. Is that normal?
So we have some very talented staff here. And some of them, with this being a 501c3 nonprofit, many of us wear a lot of different hats while we're here. And so that's Kevin. He supervises tile pressing back here. He's someone that's been at Pewabic many years and knows how to do a lot of things. And you see that often of people that kind of switch roles and do a lot. So we're lucky to have Kevin here.
It also shows that he loves what he's doing.
He's very passionate about what he does.
And I notice all the different air, the ventilation system is huge in here.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted this expansion, not only to expand the space for our tile production, but actually to add in this ventilation so that we could have a healthier work environment for the staff.
Very nice. What are these? These are the stars?
Yeah,
they're
this
just
must
drying?
Be, yeah, someone I think must be testing some kind of glaze or clay body.
Oh,
So,
well, that's
yeah.
so. In here is the beginning process, or is this the end?
This is a little bit in the middle. So once we, kind of how something is made here is once that clay is made at that last clay making
Correct.
system, it's then rolled back into this room. And in fact, they use the original carts that have been here all along to roll the
Nice.
clay back and forth. And then this is really kind of the second step in the process.
Okay.
This is where the clay will be formed into tiles before it travels to the kiln room, then the glaze room to kind of get its final surface.
Nice. And I know, should we walk down a little further?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that we were in here a little earlier, and I was a little impressed with how it just goes from the ball of clay to this beautiful tile
Yeah.
in the pressing room.
The pressing room, I think, is really cool because even though it looks like the newest space, this is where you're going to see some of the most traditional movements by our staff. The things that Josh is doing here, his hands are doing exactly what the staff would have been doing 120
Right.
years ago. So even though the machine looks a little bit newer, this is a ram press that he's working with, they would have had a really similar automatic press that would have run on the same belt system that the clay maker was on.
Oh, okay.
And then if you look on the actual workspaces, there are
Yep.
these smaller arbor presses.
Right.
And these are exactly what you would have seen the original
Back
staff
then.
working with 100 years ago.
So this was amazing.
I'm so glad you liked it.
The museum, the factory part of it, the walking through history. I tell you, we talk about how Time Warp and TWL is past, present, future, and really that is what Pewabic is: past, present, and future.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed your time here.
You know, I mean, gorgeous. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was your activities, for your children's activities, your different events that you hold within this beautiful area right here as well. You have a vehicle that you go to places as well.
Yep.
Tell me about some of those.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that people can come and experience Pewabic. We do a lot more than just make tiles and pottery, as you kind of saw today. So one great example of that is the space that you got to see. Our museum is open to the public, as well as our store in this beautiful space. This is our courtyard. This is open anytime our store is open, but we also like to host events here. We have summer market series on the weekends. We also have educational workshops that take place here, guided tours for those that would like to see more. And then we also bring a lot of those same experiences out into the community. So
How do you do that?
we have a program we call the Pewabic Street Team, so it's our mobile education unit, and we'll bring workshops to the Detroit Public Schools. We go to libraries to do history presentations. And so we have a lot of community outreach. Just knowing that we've been involved in this community for 120 years, we really want to maintain those friendships and partnerships. So there's a lot that we do here, a lot of different ways people can experience Pewabic. And I think really the best way is to go to our website, pewabic.org, to kind of plan your visit, to see what experiences that we have here, what events that we have coming down the pipeline, because there's always something going on here at Pewabic.
I was on your website, and I got to tell you, the events are crazy. I mean, you have the summer sale, you have, and that's the 26th, right, of June?
Of July.
Of July. The
Yep.
26th is for members.
Yep.
And then the 27th is for the public. They can come in and shop. The children's workshop, and then you have second Saturday tours. What are those?
Yeah, so every second Saturday of the month we have guided docent-led tours, so people can come and experience what we saw today with one of our Pewabic docents. We also, as you mentioned, have children's workshops. So sometimes we always have tile glazing workshops every week for 16 and up for adults. For those that would like to learn more about how we make tile, they can experience it for themselves. And then we also occasionally offer guardian and child workshops where you can come and bring your child and learn how to make a tile along with them.
Do they get to take the tile home?
They do, so we'll fire it and eventually you can come pick it up. So
That is
again, a
awesome.
lot of different ways you can experience Pewabic, whether you want to come and learn about our history, if you want to get creative yourself. There's something for everyone here. So again, checking out our website can give you the most information, or our social media pages as well.
Awesome, and those will be on the bottom of the screen. So I'm holding a flyer here that says become a member.
Yeah.
What is that all about? What would I become a member of? And what's involved with that?
That's a good question. So Pewabic is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, again, doing outreach into the community and supporting artists within the Detroit area here. And a huge reason that we're able to still maintain this historic organization is from support within the community. So our membership program helps to support Pewabic Pottery. It can also give you access to things like shopping discounts or certain like member benefit events. So it's a really great way of kind of getting a little bit of an inner look at what Pewabic does, being more involved, but also helping to support our nonprofit.
I was going to say, you're helping to maintain Detroit icon.
Exactly.
You are, absolutely. So it's beautiful. Everything is, I mean, from the museum that they can come in and take a look at while opening hours, to this beautiful courtyard, to the gift shop. The gift shop, which, I mean, you guys saw all the tiger stuff. You guys saw all that. They have the jewelry. You guys put out a brooch every year, you say, right?
Yeah, we have an annual piece that we put out that we do just in the early summer for our big annual garden party event. So we just released a new one of a moon design. It's beautiful. Amanda
cool.
Designed it.
Oh,
so,
did she?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time, for allowing me to bring my crew in, and talking to us about your fantastic, not only the fantastic history of Pewabic in Detroit and Michigan, but all of the different activities you guys have that I didn't even know about. Thank you so much again to my team, to Amanda, to Annie for hosting us, and hopefully you guys learned some stuff, because we did. And we will see you on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us.